Most homeowners spend thousands of dollars improving their backyards based on advice that is completely wrong. Some of the most popular backyard design rules are actually the reason outdoor spaces end up looking cheap, unfinished, or outdated. Today we're exposing 15 backyard design lies homeowners still believe. And some of them are costing people far more than they realize. Stay until the end, because one of the biggest lies on this list is something almost every homeowner has been told at least once, and believe completely. Backyard design advice gets repeated so often that people stop questioning it. It shows up on home improvement shows. It gets shared on Pinterest. It gets passed down from neighbors, contractors, and well-meaning relatives. And because everyone says it, everyone assumes it must be true. Professional landscape designers know differently, because they spend their careers fixing the damage that popular advice leaves behind. Today we're separating backyard myths from reality. 15 lies. And what's actually true instead. Lie number 1. A bigger patio is always better. This is the lie that launches 1,000 disappointing renovations. The homeowner has a modest patio and decides to extend it. More paving, more space, more room to entertain. The contractor pours the concrete. The bill arrives. And when it's done, the backyard looks, somehow, smaller than it did before. Here's why. Proportion is the invisible foundation of every well-designed outdoor space. The patio needs to relate correctly to the total size of the yard, to the scale of the house behind it, and to the number of people who will actually use it at any one time. When a patio takes up too much of the yard, it kills the relationship between the built space and the planted space. There is no contrast, no sense of moving between different environments. Just an unbroken plane of hard surface that reads as commercial rather than residential. More car park than garden. The number that professional designers often work with is roughly 1/3. The paved area should cover no more than 1/3 of the total backyard space. The remaining 2/3 stays as lawn, planting, or a combination of both. That ratio keeps the garden in visual balance. It ensures the patio has a frame, that there is something green and living around it, and that the eye has somewhere to travel beyond the hard surface. More square footage is not more luxury. Correct proportion is luxury. And correct proportion almost always means less paving than the homeowner originally planned. Lie number 2. More plants automatically look better. This one comes from the right instinct. Plants make gardens beautiful. More plants should make gardens more beautiful. Except they don't. Not when they're overcrowded. When plants are crammed together without spacing for their mature size, 3 things happen simultaneously. The strongest plants outcompete the weaker ones, creating an uneven, patchy result. Individual plants lose their form as they grow into each other, merging into an undifferentiated mass. And the planting becomes a maintenance emergency, constantly needing cutting back, thinning out, and managing in ways the homeowner never anticipated. The deeper design problem is visual. A garden where every inch is planted has no negative space. And negative space, the clear ground, the deliberate gaps between plants, is what gives the eye somewhere to rest. Without it, the garden is visually exhausting. You look at it and feel tired rather than calm. Here's the designer principle. Layering beats quantity. 3 layers of thoughtfully chosen plants. Tall background, mid-height middle, low foreground. With generous spacing will always look more expensive than the same area crammed with twice as many specimens. The beds that look genuinely designed are almost always the ones with fewer plants than the homeowner instinct would suggest. Restraint in planting is not economy. It is sophistication. Lie number 3. You need a huge budget to create a luxury backyard. This lie keeps more people stuck at level 1 than almost anything else on this list. Because the assumption behind it, that luxury is a function of spending, is wrong. Luxury is a function of design. And the most powerful design moves in any outdoor space cost almost nothing. Consider proportion and layout. Moving furniture into the right position costs nothing. Positioning a seating area to face a view rather than a fence costs nothing. Designing a pathway that curves slightly rather than running straight costs the same amount of concrete. Consider planting density and grouping. Buying 5 of the same plant instead of 5 different plants costs exactly the same amount of money. But the grouped planting looks infinitely more considered than the collection of individual specimens. Consider warm lighting. Replacing cool white bulbs in outdoor fixtures with warm white 2700 Kelvin bulbs costs approximately nothing and transforms the entire atmosphere of a backyard after dark. The features that genuinely do cost money. Quality paving, a built pergola, a water feature, look exponentially better when the free design decisions have been made correctly first. Expensive materials in a poorly designed space look cheap. Modest materials in a well-designed space look intentional. Budget is not the barrier. Design thinking is. And design thinking is free. Lie number 4. Every inch of the yard should be landscaped. The pressure to fill every inch of outdoor space is understandable. Empty ground feels unfinished. It looks like something is missing. And in the early stages of a garden, bare soil genuinely does look unfinished. But the instinct to fill every gap is one of the most reliable ways to make a backyard look amateur. Negative space is not a problem to be solved. It is a design tool. In every art form, painting, photography, architecture, interior design, empty space is used deliberately to give the eye a resting point, to make the elements that are present feel more significant, to create balance between what is there and what is not. The most expensive-looking outdoor spaces almost always have more open ground than the homeowner instinct would allow. A generous expanse of quality paving around a single specimen plant. A wide lawn with a single planted border rather than beds filling every edge. A clean gravel area with only 2 or 3 carefully chosen plants breaking the surface. That restraint communicates confidence. And confidence, in design as in everything else, reads as expensive. Before filling the next empty patch in the garden, ask one question. Is this empty space a problem, or is it breathing room? More often than not, it's the latter. Lie number 5. Privacy means building taller fences. When homeowners want privacy, the first instinct is almost always the same. Build the fence higher. It seems logical. The fence is what separates your space from the neighbors. Make it taller, and the separation is more complete. But here's what tall, solid fences actually do to a backyard. They create a box. They make the space feel smaller. They cut out light, particularly the low evening light that makes outdoor spaces feel warm and welcoming. And they make the boundary of the garden feel hard, institutional, and slightly imprisoning. Professional designers almost never specify tall, solid fencing as a privacy solution. Instead, they use layered planting, a combination of plants at different heights that creates a visual screen while maintaining the organic, living quality that makes a backyard feel like a garden rather than an enclosure. Tall grasses and bamboo provide instant height and movement. Mid-height evergreen shrubs create the body of the screen. A climbing plant on a simple trellis fills vertical space without the weight and permanence of solid fence panels. The result is a boundary that provides complete privacy without sacrificing light, scale, or the sense that there is a world beyond the garden's edge. The space feels enclosed without feeling trapped. Taller fences are almost always the wrong answer to a privacy problem. Smarter planting is almost always the right one. Lie number 6. A perfectly green lawn is the goal. For several generations, the perfectly green lawn was the definitive measure of a well-maintained property. Uniform color, 0 weeds, mowed with military precision. That ideal is collapsing, and not just for environmental reasons, though those are real. The design problem with the lawn as goal mentality is this. A lawn is a background, not a feature. It is the open space between planting beds, the breathing room between areas of interest. Used correctly, it is a powerful design tool. It provides negative space, scale, and the contrast that makes planted areas look richer. Used incorrectly, as the primary design statement of the entire backyard, it produces a space that is visually flat, demanding to maintain, and essentially identical to every other property on the street. The shift happening in luxury landscape design right now is away from lawn-dominated backyards towards spaces where planted areas take the lead, and the lawn, where it exists at all, is a deliberate compositional element rather than the default surface. Prairie-style planting, gravel gardens, meadow areas with low-maintenance wildflowers. These are not trends. They are responses to a growing understanding that a perfectly maintained green lawn is one of the most expensive and ecologically costly features a homeowner can have. The goal is not a perfect lawn. The goal is a designed space where every element, including any lawn, serves a clear purpose. Lie number 7. Outdoor furniture should always match. The matching furniture set is the outdoor design equivalent of a hotel room. Everything coordinates. Nothing surprises. The space could belong to anyone, which means it feels like it belongs to no one. Here's what professional designers know about matching sets that most homeowners don't. Coordination and cohesion are not the same thing. Coordination means everything matches. Cohesion means everything belongs together. And cohesion is almost always more interesting than coordination. The most visually compelling outdoor spaces mix materials and forms deliberately. A deep cushioned linen sofa pairs with a wrought tan lounge chair. A teak coffee table sits alongside a powder-coated steel side table. The pieces don't match, but they share a palette, a scale, and a quality level that makes them feel like they were chosen together. The rule that designers follow: keep the palette consistent, let the materials vary. Pick a color family: warm neutrals, earthy tones, deep greens, and stay within it across all the pieces. Within that constraint, almost any combination of materials and forms will feel intentional rather than mismatched. A backyard furnished with 4 carefully chosen individual pieces will almost always look more expensive than one furnished with an 8-piece matching collection. Not despite the variation, because of it. Lie number 8. Water features have to be large. The assumption that water features need to be large to be effective is one of the most expensive lies on this list. Because the qualities that make water features valuable in a backyard have nothing to do with size. They are about sound, movement, the play of light on a moving surface. And those qualities are just as present in a small wall-mounted fountain as they are in a large pond. In fact, a smaller, well-positioned water feature almost always outperforms a large one in a typical residential backyard. Here's why. The primary value of a water feature in an outdoor space is acoustic. Moving water creates what designers call ambient sound coverage. It replaces the irregular, harder sounds of a suburban environment with something steady and natural. That steady sound is what the brain processes as calm. But that effect only works if the water feature is close enough to the seating area to actually be heard. A large pond at the back of the garden, barely audible from the patio, delivers almost none of that acoustic benefit. A small wall fountain directly beside the seating area delivers all of it. Scale the water feature to the space. Position it for sound, not spectacle, and resist the instinct to make it larger than the space needs. In water features, as in most things in outdoor design, the right size is usually smaller than the first instinct suggests. Lie number 9. Landscape lighting is only for nighttime. Most homeowners think about landscape lighting as a practical feature, something that turns on when it gets dark and turns off when it gets light. Professional designers think about it completely differently. Lighting fixtures are design elements that are present in the space 24 hours a day. Their placement, their form, and their material all contribute to the daytime appearance of the garden. A beautifully designed lantern on a post at the garden's edge is a visual feature when it is off. A poorly placed plastic spike light is an eyesore in both conditions. But the more important misunderstanding about landscape lighting is this: it does not simply illuminate the space. It creates the space. Light defines depth. Uplighting on a specimen tree creates a vertical element that draws the eye upward and makes the garden feel taller. Path lights at ground level create a visual boundary that makes planted areas feel more contained and intentional. Pendant lights under a pergola pull the ceiling down and make the seating area feel like a room. Landscape lighting is not a finishing touch. In the hands of a designer, it is one of the primary tools for shaping how a space is experienced. Plan it early, budget for it seriously, and think about it in daylight as well as after dark. Lie number 10. Backyards should follow current trends. Trend following is one of the most reliable ways to create a backyard that will require expensive updating within 5 years. And the cruelest part of this lie is that the most on-trend choices are always the ones that date fastest. The feature that is everywhere right now, on every design blog, in every new development, on every home renovation show, is the feature that will feel most dated in a decade. Because the moment something becomes ubiquitous, the design world moves on. The gray kitchen, the open plan everything, the artificial turf backyard, the farmhouse everything. Each of these was, at its peak, the safe choice. The option that felt current and sophisticated. Each of them now reads as a specific moment in time. What designers reach for instead of trends is timelessness. And timelessness is not a trend in itself. It's a principle. Natural materials that age well. Classic forms that don't belong to any particular era. Planting with structure and layering that deepens and improves over time. The question to ask before any major backyard decision is not, is this popular right now? It's, will this look right in 20 years? If the honest answer is uncertain, the choice is probably trend-driven rather than design-driven. Trends are expensive. Timeless design pays for itself. Lie number 11. More features increase property value. This lie is actively encouraged by the home improvement industry. For obvious reasons. More features mean more products sold, more contractors hired, more money spent. And the narrative that every feature adds value is a convenient one for everyone in the supply chain. Here's what real estate appraisers actually know. features add value only when they are appropriate to the neighborhood, well executed, and coherently integrated into the overall design of the property. A poorly executed outdoor kitchen in a neighborhood where no comparable property has one adds almost nothing to the sale price. An overcrowded backyard with too many features competing for attention can actually reduce perceived value, because it reads as cluttered rather than luxurious. Quality of execution always outperforms quantity of features when it comes to both perceived value and actual resale value. One excellent pergola over a generous seating area adds more value than 3 mediocre features competing for space. The question is never, how many features can we fit in? The question is, what is the one addition that would most improve how this space feels? And how do we execute it exceptionally well? Lie number 12. Every backyard needs a fire pit. Fire pits have become the default backyard upgrade recommendation. And in the right context, with the right execution, they genuinely transform an outdoor space. But the lie is that every backyard needs one. They don't. A fire pit positioned in the wrong place, too close to the house, too exposed, dropped into the middle of a patio without any enclosure or framing, adds very little to the experience of the space. It creates a practical obstacle more than a gathering point. People don't naturally gravitate toward it because there is nothing drawing them in. The feature that makes a fire pit work is not the fire itself. It is the enclosure around it. Human beings are drawn to fire because of deep evolutionary programming. But that programming also requires that the fire feels safe and contained to trigger the relaxation response. A fire pit in an open space, with no enclosure, no seating structure, nothing defining the gathering area, doesn't fully activate that response. Before adding a fire pit, ask 2 questions. Does this space have a location where a fire pit would be naturally enclosed and semi-private? And does the overall design of the garden actually have room for a dedicated fire gathering zone? Or would it simply add another element to an already busy space? If the answers are yes, a fire pit is one of the most valuable features in outdoor design. If the answers are uncertain, invest elsewhere first. Lie number 13. Pools automatically increase home value. This is the lie that costs the most money when people believe it. Pools do not automatically increase home value. In certain markets, in certain price brackets, a well-executed pool absolutely adds to the sale price. In others, it adds nothing, or actively reduces buyer interest because of the ongoing maintenance cost and liability it represents. Here is what the data actually shows. According to the National Association of Realtors, a pool adds roughly 7% to home value in climates where outdoor swimming is possible for most of the year. California, Florida, Arizona, Texas. In northern markets where the pool is usable for 3 months annually, the same pool often adds nothing to the appraisal and can reduce the buyer pool. No pun intended. Because buyers calculate the $3,000 to $5,000 annual maintenance cost and walk away. The other pool lie is about size. Homeowners assume larger pools are better. Professional pool designers know that a pool sized correctly for the space, with generous coping, quality landscaping, and enough room to move around it, looks dramatically more expensive than a large pool crammed into a space that can't support it. Before committing to a pool, research your specific market. Speak to a local realtor about comparable sales. And if the numbers support it, invest as heavily in the landscaping around the pool as in the pool itself. The pool is the feature. The landscape is what makes it luxurious. Lie number 14. Low maintenance means no maintenance. Every landscaper has heard this request. I want a backyard that looks after itself. And every experienced landscaper knows that no such backyard exists. Low maintenance is a real and achievable goal, but it means low maintenance, not no maintenance. The gap between those two things is where the lie lives. And it's a gap that causes enormous disappointment when homeowners install a low-maintenance design and discover that it still requires regular work. Artificial turf needs brushing, cleaning, and infill replacement. Gravel gardens fill with weeds if not covered with a quality membrane and topped up regularly. Drought-tolerant plants still need to be established with regular watering in their first 2 seasons. Automated irrigation systems need programming, maintenance, and occasional repair. The honest conversation about maintenance is this: every outdoor space requires some level of ongoing care. The goal of low-maintenance design is to reduce that care to a predictable, manageable routine, not to eliminate it. Plants chosen for their site rather than forced into the wrong conditions. Ground cover that suppresses weeds rather than bare soil that invites them. Hard surfaces that require sweeping rather than pressure washing. Materials that age well rather than deteriorating visibly. That approach genuinely reduces the maintenance burden. It doesn't eliminate it. And any designer or contractor who promises otherwise is selling something that doesn't exist. Lie number 15. The best backyard is a finished one. This is the last lie, and it might be the most important one, because the belief that a backyard should be completed, finished, done, unchanging, is what causes homeowners to either overspend trying to create a fully mature garden in a single season, or to feel constantly dissatisfied with a space that doesn't yet look like the vision they had at the beginning. Great outdoor spaces are not finished. They are becoming. The planting takes years to reach maturity. The timber develops its patina. The stone weathers into the landscape rather than sitting on top of it. The trees begin to create canopy and shade and a sense of enclosure that no amount of money can compress into a single year. The homeowners with the most beautiful backyards are almost never the ones who spent the most in a single season. They are the ones who made consistently good decisions over time, who planted the trees early, who chose quality materials that aged well, who resisted the urge to fill every space immediately and instead gave the garden room to develop. Time is the most valuable material in any garden. It cannot be purchased. It can only be earned. By committing to the long view, and by understanding that a backyard that is still becoming is not a failure. It is a garden doing exactly what gardens are supposed to do. 15 lies. And most of them have one thing in common. They substitute a simple rule for actual design thinking. Bigger is better. More is more. Match everything. Follow the trend. Real design thinking is harder than rules, but it produces spaces that look better, cost less to maintain, and hold their value far longer than anything built on popular advice. Most homeowners aren't struggling because they lack money. They're struggling because they're following advice that was never true in the first place. Now you know which lies to ignore and what to believe instead. Drop in the comments. Which lie on this list surprised you most? And which one have you already fallen for? Subscribe for more, and we'll see you outside.